The 23rd match day in Bundesliga 1, perfect betting game. The common thing, I'm comparing my computer prices with the market prices, and this is kind of a preview of this match day, what I think about the game, what market thinks, and there are just probabilities about it, and we are trying to guess those probabilities, or we try to calculate them. Betting market is just setting up some prices, and maybe, well, the way I met those people doing the prices, they do it more or less by intuition. But if many people price those games up and compare those prices, some people dare to open the market, others don't. They wait for others to start with a price. And my computer always compels its prices, and I can adjust it or I can leave it as is. Maybe I showed my software already at some point. But for example, here I got plenty of other leagues than the Bundesliga. But if you see here, this is market price, this is computer. Well, you do not have to trust this, but of course I can, for a proof more or less, which could also be faked. But if we could also simply do the next week's prices, I can't make that any bigger. But we're making a random game. Stuttgart, Hanover, this is 0, 0, 0, you see here. I got two buttons that I can press here. Command B. At the same time that it's going to calculate the price for this game coming up. And you can, actually there has been a comparison already up here. I'm doing it out of my head and then see what the computer does. It should be, Stuttgart over 2.0. It should be over 2.0, but not by much. Stuttgart, they will still rate okay, but they are not great. Something 2. Okay, that's 190. Was not a good example for me being a good odds maker, but I could say, well, okay, they are both kind of home teams. I can see that here. So that, but we can check here actually. Stuttgart 186. So I'm already in line with the market more or less, right? I could do this for all those games for next week, just to give you one example of how my software works. And so, I mean, this price would just be fine. If I do Wolfsburg Werder without watching beforehand, which you can, of course, I cannot prove, but out of my head, I would say, okay, here I may not quite trust the computer because it may be a bit too little over 2.0. It's a similar story in this one, but it should be a bit more over 2.0. 2.15 we got here, so the comparison tells us Wolfsburg Werder 229. As I said, it could be a bit more, but 215 is not out of the world, right? Okay, so I could do that for every. Do I store this? If I don't store it, I can do it next week again. Okay, anyway, this is how my computer works, and I've programmed it, and so on. It's compiling the prices. People do that out of their heads, but if plenty of people do that and they compare the prices, as I've done now, what you see here, then I said, okay, Wolfsburg, it's a bit too low maybe, so I would instantly accept if market. It's a bit bigger, I might be a bit bigger too. 229, 225, maybe 220, something like that. But now we have this actual match day. Here are the best bet market, best prices. I took it from this oddsportal.com, which is, I'm also not happy with it. It's always those 103%, which looks as if, well, this is still a kind of a bookmaker more or less, right? Or one bookmaker. or they tune their prices instantly. I don't know. It doesn't make much sense. Usually there should be some more differences in those prices. Actually, there had been one question, something I should explain a bit better. Well, this is just a bet market. I could go to the back to the other page, or maybe I could. No, well, I'm not going to do this now. Compare these two odds comparisons to check whether or not they are close to each other. Of course, they should be. There's not so much doubt about those prices, and market doesn't need to. They all know, and there had been those ancient times back in the 90s when there was no real internet yet, and people didn't communicate like that, and then they all set up their prices. They sent out their sheets for the people to bet, or they hung it out in the shops or so. And then people started betting, and they spotted the errors there when the bookies somewhere must have made errors and so on. But now everyone tunes his prices to market needs or whatever he wants to, and because it's a what is it called? A transparent world. Everything is transparent. Mm. Um, well, those are just. Well, I didn't understand the question. Maybe this is market prices, and what I'm trying to do is shape them to 100%. So this is more or less make the betting market take part in my perfect betting game. I'm tuning those prices to 100%, and I simply say, well, this is what they really think. Those are the probabilities that market more or less is setting up for the games. The other are going to win the game by 60.69%. No one says so, and they don't know about that, but it's more or less what they would say. And I wouldn't know I'm doing prices as well, and if I get this true price, I do not turn this into a probability and so on. It's just a true price, and then maybe you have a price you would pay on this 155 or something like that, or 150. But you do not think in probabilities, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, there are those underlying probabilities, and they always, when I do that, it's based on that. I'm doing it, I calculate, I distribute the 100%. The way I do my calculations, it's always going to be 100%. From then on, or from there, okay, those are the reciprocals from these. But from there, I can still think about, okay, what would be a decent price for that? It should be underneath those prices, of course, because true prices you couldn't pay because you wouldn't make any bargain in the end. But I'm not a bookmaker anyway. I'm just checking those. But market says a bit less likely. Here I put them next to each other, so one can see maybe the differences, or you don't see a lot. I say 50%, market says 52%, things like that. That's very, very common. Deviations, and searching a bigger one, maybe in Bayern Munich, that's once again a game where you have kind of a deviation, and I'm going to argue about this pretty soon, in a minute. Those are the true prices here from both of us. Those are the probabilities. It makes no big difference. You can do it like this, like that. Here is what the bet size. It's always going to be 2,000 euro in one line. It's based on my probability plus your probability. Anyone that wants to set up this betting game, he has to shape the turnover, or the bet size to some fair amounts, and this is done by adding up the probabilities times a basis value, which is 1,000 euro, my probability plus your probability. So they are both around 60%, something a bit more than 60%. So that makes 120% times 1,000 gives us 1,200 euro that we bet against each other. But we do not bet this on, well, we bet it against each other, but the difference is only the payout here. So the difference will be 0.04 because this is the difference between the prices times the bet size that is going to occur here. So, and this is not a lot, it's just 42.11 euro. So if I'm right with this somewhat higher probability, because I say here 61.98, market says 16.69. If I were right, I would in more cases, doesn't mean if I have a higher probability, does not mean it's gonna happen. It's just gonna happen in a very, well, no one would really spot that. If you would have 100 results or 1,000 results underneath each other, and then you would have to decide, well, was he better or was him better? Then you see maybe it could come out 61.2% wins. So what would you conclude? It's right in the middle. Okay, was he better? Was he better? It's not on a single game that you spot that who's better, especially if the probabilities are very close to each other. And this game is only played once. For the next game, I would set up a new probability, and then we wouldn't have the time or the possibility even to check if any one of us is better on this probability. Just who has compiled it better, I don't know. And we will not find out. What I can say over the season, of course, is that market has done a better job than I've done, or it has been lucky. In the recent match days, what we found out was that market, more often I was right with the course of the game. The stats rather would have confirmed my point of view. But it doesn't help me a lot as long as the results are not tuning in, right? So we're gonna delete this. So I'm 2,456 euro behind the market on all those match days from 8 through 22, minus the 2 that I didn't make the video for. This one, 20th and the 12th. Now I can maybe, well, I'm trying to explain quickly in every other video or every other week how I do this drop or this comparison, and maybe, well, people coming on this channel here, anew, they might still understand a bit, but of course I would recommend to watch some earlier videos where it's maybe explained a bit better. But still, if it's repeated, it's also, even for myself, that I think, okay, it makes a lot of sense. You add up the probabilities, and the one who's better or who's closer with his probabilities, because it's a higher probability, it's going to be a lower price he will have to return, because this is the reciprocal of this. So the one who has the higher probability will profit if his event, if this characteristic is gonna occur, like a home win here or a draw. In this case, and usually you see also when you compare those probabilities that you say, okay, I lose this and this so often, so many times, and so on. So am I happy with that? We had this problem with the draws that I was trying to explain already. Market usually is a bit closer with the draws, lower with the probability is a bit bigger, so the true price is, market has bigger probabilities, probability on the draws. What I can show here is, and I think recently it even went up a bit, I was, the average price expected on a draw is 4.46. The average price occurred, that should be 4.41. Translated into probabilities, 22.41% draws are expected, 22.65 occurred. So I can't complain about the draws. I'm just doing, yeah, it's okay, my compilation. If market says there's a higher probability, well, at least for this season, it had not been right. Or you say 22.67 is more than 22.41, which it is, but it's not by much. I mean, one match day could correct it. If we have just 2 draws, for example, 2 out of 9, that's 22%. Oh, no, that's close enough. Anyway, if it's just 1 draw in 9 games, which is well possible, it's gonna change here into my favor, or into favor of being better on the draws. Anyway, I lose again on the draw. I win a bit here, a bit there, which in the end means, of course, I win. In the majority of cases, I win 42 euro. If Wolfsburg should win, then I also say that the probability is a bit higher. I also win a bit, but I'm gonna pay quite a bit if it's gonna end in a draw. But it's a fair deal from my point of view, at least, because if those 20.75% are right, I only pay in 20.75% of the cases. I pay this amount, so that's 1 in 5 more or less that I pay this. And in the other 4 cases of those 5, when I paid once, the other 4 cases, you see instantly that I should have picked up enough money to make up for that. You could say 3 times I pick up this, so it's 126, plus once I pick up this, 29, that's 155, so I paid 143, I picked up 155, I make a bargain of 15 or 13 euro if this game were played 10 times, but I make it per game. No, I make it all together. It's just a very small edge that I would have, but it's also a very balanced evaluation here, so you can't expect a lot. Anyway, if market were right, he would collect those 143 euro in 22.9 cases, which is right in between 1/4 and 1/5. So it's 1 in 4.5 cases, and it would pay out this in the respective manner, more or less. So it would pay out less if those probabilities were right. So we can prove more or less once again that he who has the better probability has probability distribution, has the edge in the end, and will win some money, which has been the market to this end. And I can't do a lot better for now and not prove anything better. I'm gonna, so anyway. Oh yeah, we didn't compare the prices, and they are also changing from time to time. Maybe this Werder is now 158, you see here. So the market also assuming now the probability is a bit bigger for them to win. I'm not gonna enter it again. In Mainz against Schalke, I'm a bit surprised what market does or makes of it. Because, I mean, we could also look at the table once again. So I'll bring up this again. And the table here would tell us that Mainz actually are 4 points better. Goal difference is in Schalke's favor, but still this is -7, right, against -13. But still Mainz just 4 points better. Schalke on the road maybe pretty okay, 2-4-5, okay. They still just won 2 games on the road. Mainz at home 4-4-3, okay. They are both lower half, bottom half of the table. Anyway, but it would be hard to say that after 22 games, after 5-6 games, you could easily say they are the better side. Here, well, if it's going on for such a long time, you can hardly argue they are the better side. And they also got Man City not just on their minds, They also lost on midweek, maybe a bit unluckily you could say, but who gets 2 penalties in a row by VAR more or less, and turns around the game when they were outclassed, of course, by Man City. Still, after the 2-1 lead with 11 against 10, they may have won. But this, I mean, you can say boosting confidence or well, the other way around, what would that be? Lowering their confidence. Also, neither of the two. They would say, oh, "Okay, we played a good game. We lost 2-3. We didn't lose our yeah well our face. What do you say? I mean, it was just fine. People liked it. They watched it. Okay, but with 10 men against 10 men to concede these 2 late goals, you can also say it was a bit unlucky. But okay. A draw, they would have been perfectly happy with that and say, okay, we're not going to win the second leg, or we do, but we're not really planning this or something like that. We try to, but 2-2 against Man City, one of the best sides in the world. It's fine. But they wasted some energy, not wasted, but they invested something into this game. And you can't fully get this out of your head as well when you know it's Tuesday and Saturday, okay, but there's a second leg to come, you would still say, okay, do we have some chances, or we try, and they were not this much better, or whatever it is, but it's something distracting or whatever. But it's hard to argue that the Schalke are the better side. I mean, I would also, okay, you would say maybe, but what do we have here in probabilities? I got 36, 35. So this is more or less the same, right? It's an even game, which is fine. But market says Schalke are favorites here. And of course we can do this as well and have a little review here and looking at this. Why do I start? Okay, because there's the second game. Review, sorry, Schalke. Okay, draw, loss, draw, win. Okay, draw, loss, draw. You could say here it's draw, loss. Okay, they win. Why is it Schalke Freiburg? Okay. Okay. Sorry. This was ridiculous what I've done here. We're talking about Mainz against Schalke. Okay, I know that Mainz lost their last 3, which was, of course, this might be the answer why market is against them somehow. 3-0, 1-5, 3-0. Okay, 3 losses. But here we don't have a lot better. They drew against Freiburg. They could have lost there. They were not the better side, but they were 10 men. Okay. But they lost here as well, and then they have 1 draw, so it's just, well, 1 draw in 3 or 2 draws in 4, which is not a lot better than this, actually. Mainz would even have 1 point more out of the last 4 games. But, if you remember those games, against Leverkusen, that was also what Sandro Schwarz said, and also in Wolfsburg, they were by no means outclassed. They just conceded those goals, okay, but the game itself in Wolfsburg was even. Also against Leverkusen, and I could show this by stats that it was fine, their effort. Maybe Leverkusen still a bit better, but not 5 goals or 5-1, 4 goals, something like that. And also in Augsburg, it was just, it happens. Okay, 11 goals in total, but Schalke are not this much better in that respect either. So I'm happily gonna take Mainz. Market is gonna prove me wrong again, I guess. For Bayern, we have that same story. Well, Bayern are on that winning streak, and I would all say, okay, they're gonna catch Dortmund now, and yeah, we always knew that Dortmund are not the best side. They are gonna run out of steam. But everything is ridiculous. But Bayern also have this other business. At 0-0, Liverpool was fine. very good effort. I didn't expect a lot different, but they easily could have conceded the goal or also scored one here or there. But it can go plenty of ways, such a game. It's not a nil-nil fixed result. It was okay. They are on eye level with Liverpool. I wouldn't see much otherwise. But the return game, it starts at nil-nil as the first one. So it's nothing in their favor really these days anymore. It's still even, about even, very much. Well, yeah, okay, Bayern may have a very, very small edge. But they got this on their minds and had, as I said about Schalke, and they also did play a game of football midweek, which they may be used to, but still, Kovac is gonna rest a player here or there. Okay, then they can say squad size is big enough. Bayern does not have such a squad size, but of course the players exchanged are on the same level as the ones replacing them. But it's the same story here, and I can win a lot if Hertha are gonna win, or if it's gonna be a draw, it's still fine. And if Bayern are gonna win, and also here we don't have this massive. Well, okay, yeah, this looks like almost 6%, which is then quite a bit of a difference. But I can't do much about it. I'm gonna compare my prices this way, and when you see the game against Augsburg they played, I lost it in the end 2-3, but Augsburg were winning, and if Bayern scores so easily after that, or pretty soon after that, it's still going their way, this game. But there are games when they don't score that easily, as Man City did also against Schalke, which was a similar scenario, you could say. The underdog was just winning, and the others just couldn't score a goal. And okay, two late goals, 86, this Sané Freistoß, a brilliant free kick. Okay, but you can't do that every day, right? And then the second goal was the 3-2. Anyway, it was on the break. And but I can't do much about it. Usually, I have to take such outsiders and hope that my probabilities are right, and that once in a while I get this huge return, after which I would happily pay 7 times in a row. I would lose this game and still be doing okay. And Freiburg against Augsburg. Okay, I gotta take Augsburg, no doubt. And well, looking at the table, you may say here Freiburg are ahead even by 6 points. Here I would say the goal difference tells me a bit more that they are actually on one level. But I would even argue, because I see that in my stats, that Augsburg are the slightly better side. I also liked the way the coach shrugged off the discussion that started about him, Manuel Baum, and instead 2 players left, Hinteregger and this oh, what's the other one? Kajubi, of course. And they left the club instead, which was a very good outcome for him. But I would say they're on the same level, and Augsburg had been a bit unlucky. But this is okay. Somewhere you have to, well, there will always be one result, but here it is a difference we could talk about, right? Because I say it's 32% and they say it's 28%, so this is a difference. But I would, well, for now, I would simply say I'm right on this. We will see. First of all, we will have a result, and secondly, we will have the stats in the end to say who was better. The Gladbach-Wolfsburg, I'm a bit surprised because somehow both teams are overrated, and I mean their results. When I look at my stats, their results are a bit too good. Of course, Gladbach are still this home side, but they lost the last one. So I mean, 9 wins and 1 loss. Okay, and you could say very good home side. But after he lost the first time, then you would say, well, are we still this home side? If they would have lost the first game and then 9 wins, it would be a different story. But well, it's not a massive difference here. But I would argue in favor of mine because simply, I mean, they are on this good run here. Win, draw, win. Okay, it's 3 games, but it's maybe okay. They lost to Leverkusen and lost to Schalke. Don't even remember. But okay, most recent results are in their favor, and while Gladbach are win here was okay, but lost to Hertha and draw in Frankfurt. Is not meaning they hope to trouble the top teams. They will be very happy to get into the Champions League, which is still far from clear. But how many points were there between them? That's 35, 43. Okay, it's 8 points, and goals are 15. So you could argue. Anyway, I'm supporting my. I know that Gladbach are still a good home side, but that last loss. Okay, here we got one of those typical games. I win on 1 and 2. I lose on the draw, which is more or less. It's just based on this evaluation of the draw. Of course, here one could say, but if you look for reasons at market, it's not that sensible for the draws. But that Düsseldorf, in some sense, would be happy with the draw, right? I mean, they keep them at bay, but I mean, 16 against 25. If they would lose, it's still 9 points. But if they win, it's 15. Okay, they wouldn't. Well, I mean, they wouldn't calculate at this point, right? It's 25 points. That's just fine. Let's play football, and that's the story. But of course, you could argue, well, in case it's a draw, we're not gonna open up our defensive in the last 10 minutes or so to beat them. A draw is a fine result, but that would be, of course, not by any means what market thinks about it. It's just setting up prices, and in this case, I could say, okay, maybe you could have 1 extra percent for the draw because of this circumstance I was just mentioning. In Hannover, Frankfurt, I mean, Frankfurt once again impressed. Okay, EuroLeague, but also they played another game on Thursday 4-1. Shakhtar Donetsk, very good. All those strikers scored goals again, and they scored just oceans of goals in all those Europa League games. But still, they invested something there, and it's a different competition. Okay. But of course, Hannover were terrible in Hoffenheim. But at some point, you simply say, okay, we're going to lose this game, but we got other games to come. Thomas Doll, as a new coach, of course, he makes a good impression, no doubt. But the question is if there are any positive changes. But be it the same as before, I don't mind so much. But I would still say. Of course, this is one of the important games for them, and of course, give him a second chance. They did win against Nuremberg, even if it wasn't such a great effort, 2-0, but 11 against 10 men. But they did their job and they won the game. And now they lost in Hoffenheim. Okay, bad effort. But Frankfurt is a different story now. Home game. Now it's going down to the wire. So now it's really matters. And okay, give him a second chance. So I would argue in favor of that. And we do not forget, Frankfurt had been playing midweek, which is a minor impact as well. In Dortmund, Leverkusen, I would say the same, more or less. I mean, now, more or less the same. I mean, they played in Europe and they lost to Krasnodar on the away goal rule with a 1-1 in the second leg after a 0-0, which is, of course, not really in their favor. But Dortmund do have Tottenham on their mind. I mean, 3-0. They may not really hope to turn it around, but they definitely want to try, and they will definitely focus on this somehow, and somehow think, well, we can't go out of Europe at least without a fight. And Leverkusen are done with that, and okay, but I simply would say they had been in good shape and Dortmund had been struggling, and I've been predicting that all season that Dortmund are not as good as their. This is my fingers that move the mouse without that I'm moving anything. Just touch it. And okay, that I want to say. Here, the 3 draws in a row, not a goal in Nuremberg, and 3-3 against Hoffenheim was very, very sad. And the 1-1 in Dortmund was in Frankfurt was still okay. But anyway, this is okay. They somehow lost their shape, while Leverkusen couldn't do any better. Right? Just yeah, that's 10, 13 goals in last 4. Ever since Bosch took over, they lost here, which was unlucky, but they won here. So this is ever since. Oh no, when did he take over? Against Gladbach. Yeah, this was the game. After which they started winning. And well, I wouldn't see a big difference really. And so I would argue in favor of Leverkusen once again. Both with bad results in Europe, so forget it maybe. But if anything, it's matters a bit more for Dortmund because they are still in the competition. And in Hoffenheim, yeah, no opinion really. And okay, this is just figures here telling me, but I can't see this. Well, yeah, I shouldn't argue about this. This is what is the difference here? 26. Okay, 26 against 23. Yeah, or 24 rather. But yeah, hard to argue. I would say Hoffenheim did play quite well. That 3-3 in Dortmund showed it. They can compete with the best. So why should I doubt here? And Leipzig are winning their games, but in the last one, Stuttgart, for example, they all agreed it was just an even game. So why? Yeah, before that they couldn't see off Frankfurt. 0-0 was fine. They were closer anyway. They didn't win this game. So and also the last 2 home games they didn't score a goal. They also lost to Dortmund when they may have been the better side, but they didn't score a goal. So anyway, I wouldn't see this much reason to doubt my evaluation of Hoffenheim. And arguing about the game is just it's too much of too little of a difference. But I can't see that that I'm wrong here somehow. Man. Okay, anyway, let's stop it for now, and I'll be back on Monday. And actually, I would like to talk a lot more about football instead of just doing this, and I may do it one day, but not for now. Share, like, comment, subscribe.